can't really use that as a background. But you look at the card and just, you know.
That's a good idea. I'll keep that one in mind.
Especially when you go to like hotels.
Yeah.
Because then it's more like a business rather than scenery. Yeah. If you're in a forest, it's like you're playing.
Aloha, everyone. Okay, we're starting to get all the folks coming in. Tui, you need printouts, or I can print it out for you, or you're good.
Now. You look familiar.
No, I'm just bring it up on screen, but I'll be on in just a second.
Yeah, but do you need printout of the things?
No, I have the files. I just got to open them up on my laptop. Thank you.
Oh, you're such a next generation. I need my printouts. I'm old. Thank you, everyone. Aloha. Hi, Alice. Welcome home.
Hi. Good afternoon. Thank you.
Hi, Michelle. Chantel is at another meeting, yeah? She told me. Oh no, you're Kauai, sorry. Hi, Harrison. Erica, how are you?
I'm good.
Nice to see you.
You too.
And Lena is here, and Harrison. Okay, we'll just wait for a few. And there's Harrison, and of course Matt is here. Cheryl is here. Got a good complement of folks who are here attending.
Ooh, thank you all for your patience. I'm running between meetings, slid in here in the nick of time.
No, you're good, Chair. I just appreciate you.
Happy to be of service.
Thank you for your leadership.
For sure. We're at a minute past start time. I'm going to give it just another second and then we'll get rolling. We're already recording. Lovely. All right, doesn't look like we have anybody in the waiting room. Let's get this party started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Youth Services Committee meeting. We have a full agenda, so I'd like to call our meeting to order at 1:02 p.m. My name is Tui Scanlon, chair of this committee. I would like to acknowledge Carla Kurokawa, vice chair. This is a public meeting under the open meeting law. The committee members and public guests are viewing in Zoom, and we have staff at the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations office room in 317 in case members and guests wish to meet at an on-site location. To start the meeting and to document in the minutes, I will ask the members and guests to introduce themselves with the name and organization, and please be mindful that the chat box is disabled. And Tui Scanlon, chair with IATSC Local 665 as president. Let's go to Carrie.
Okay, Carrie Miyashiro, Quad D Solutions, chairs, sector strategies, career pathways.
Thank you. Bennett.
Bennett Misalucha, Executive Director, Workforce Development Council, and I will punt it over to Michelle.
Michelle Rigo, County of Kauai, Office of Economic Development.
And who are you punting it to?
Oh, Carla.
Kurokawa with Alulike. Alice.
My name's Alice. I'm with DBED, designee for DBED Director. Wanel.
Hi, Wanel Kaneshiro, Workforce Development Branch for the Department of Education. Erica.
Erica LaCroix, Vice President for the Community Colleges for the University of Hawaii System. How about Chloe?
Hello, my name is Chloe Yap. Representing my Economic Development Board.
Turn it over to someone. Chloe.
Oh, forgive me. Cheryl?
Aloha, Cheryl Cross, Councilwoman, also CA Cross and Associates.
Let's go to Harrison.
Yeah, hello, everyone. My name is Harrison Koronishi, Oahu Workforce Development Board Executive Director, and I will kick it to David.
Aloha, everyone. David Sun Miyashiro, Executive Director of Hawaii Can. I will pass it over to Matt.
Hi, everyone. Matt Stevens, Executive Director with the Hawaii Workforce Funders Collaborative. I'll pass it to Rona.
Hi, everyone. Rona Fukumoto, Lanakila Pacific. Oh, sorry. I'll pass it to Scott.
Hi, I'm Scott Collins with HGEA. I'm a WDC board member. I'll pass it over to, not sure who has it.
Lena.
Lena.
Hello, I'm Lina Rivera from Department of Labor, Administrative Services Office, an accountant. Pass it on to who else? I think we got everybody.
Nisa? Do we get Nisa?
Aloha, Nisa Tokunaga with the American Job Center's Youth Service Center.
I believe that is everyone. Is anyone still yet to be introduced or introduce themselves? Okay, seeing none, welcome all and thank you for being here. Next item of business is the approval of minutes. Please review the minutes from our prior meeting, namely on June 21st, 2024. The minutes were posted on the website earlier and were distributed to our routing list. I'll give you a couple of minutes to review and we'll entertain a motion to approve when you are ready. Has everyone received the minutes or had a chance to approve it? Or had a chance to review it, excuse me. If review and reception has already happened, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting, excuse me.
So moved, Carrie.
Second, Carla.
Motion is made by Carrie Miyashiro, second by Carla Kurokawa. I am tongue-tied today. Is there any opposition? Are there any corrections to the minutes? Excuse me. If there are no corrections to the minutes, is there any opposition to approving the minutes as distributed? Seeing no opposition, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. And the minutes are approved. So part 3, let's talk a little bit about this committee's work. It's to equip us with necessary information on fiscal or funding matters related to WIOA funds. We are told that for best practice, we should review the fiscal reports on youth performance, as well as the monies allotted on a regular basis. So for the first time, we will have this portion of our meeting devoted to a presentation of the current status of youth funds. Please bear with us as we will try to educate our committee on these reports. Our Executive Director, Bennett Misalucha, will provide the overall context as well as a report on these specifics.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so I am sharing my screen. Do you see it?
Yep.
Is it clear? Is it visible enough, or should I make it even bigger?
It's cut off on the.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be scrolling down. Okay. All right. Well, first of all, let me frame this report by first of all saying that mahalo to Lina Rivera, who is our ASO accountant, and she has been very responsive in putting all these reports together. So thank you, Lina, for all your hard work. I also wanted to make sure we understand that by presenting this report, and some of the report is not necessarily puts the state in a good light, but we are not pointing fingers. We're not blaming anyone when we're presenting this. This is really an issue, a challenge, but it's not anybody else's problem but ours, all of us, so that moving forward, I want to make sure we have a baseline of understanding where we're at, so that then hopefully once we've established that, we can see that hopefully by next year, we will improve the trend. But the reason why we're presenting this is to help us all understand where we're at and the situation, because we can only improve if we know where we're at. And so here, let me present this, and hopefully I'm going to talk some basic stuff. So for those people who know WIOA very well and good, great. But I'm also speaking to those that may not be as conversant, and so I'm providing some basic information. So let me begin by saying that when we receive funds from the US, from the federal government, we are, like all the states, we have 3 years to spend WIOA funds. And under WIOA, which is Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, we have dedicated funds just for the youth. Okay, so again, 3 years. Those funds, the flow of funds is first distributed to the local counties. So in this case, it's Honolulu or Oahu, and then Maui, Big Island, and then last but not least, Kauai as well. So the counties have 2 years to spend the money, and whatever they do not spend after the 2 years is up, which is June 30th of the 2 years later, then the state has to or will be recapturing those funds, and they have 1 year. The state has 1 year to spend the remaining funds. So right now, we are at PY 2022. So PY 2021 was just POW finished as of June 30th, 2024. So that is where it's whatever funds that are excess will need to go back to the U.S. Department of Labor. But again, I will speak to that in a moment. So we are currently at PY 2022. Hopefully that's all clear. Does anyone have questions at this juncture? Okay, moving on. So we are going to be looking at some funds that are PY 2022, funds that are already recaptured by the state, because the local areas, the local workforce development boards have had 2 years to spend the money. So this is as of June 30th, 2024. So by July 1, they become recaptured funds for the state to spend for what they call statewide activities. Okay, so let me again, we're providing the backdrop for this, the background. So the state will have, for PY 2022, will have to spend these funds by June 30, 2025, by next year. And any unspent amount will be recaptured by USDOL. In the same token, for PY 2023, I hope you can hear the cadence now, that funds that are available to spend for PY 2023 are right now available to spend by the local areas. They have 1 more year until 6/30/2025, but they're currently spending for 2023 funds, PY 2023. So again, if you look at the cadence, 6/30/2025, the local areas are done with it. So by July 1, 2025, it goes to the state. And again, the state has 1 year, and any funds that are not spent by the state by June 30th, 2026, it will then go back to USDOL as much as possible. And I think we all are cognizant of this. We do not want to return any monies to USDOL. That was spent, that was given to us, and I think we need to spend it obviously judiciously within the context, within the spirit of WIOA. Okay, so having said that, these are the results for PY 2022. Okay, so again, the allocated amount for each county is stated here. So for Oahu, for PY 2022, they received 1.8 million. They had spent as of 5/31/2024. The information from 6/30/2024 has not been configured here, but you can make some intelligent assumptions. Looking at the trends, it won't matter that much. And I think Lena will validate this, and you can have ask her specific questions later on. So it looks like the available balance as recaptured funds to the state is about $1 million. So the spent rate for Oahu is 45%. I have Harrison, and we can ask Harrison, why is this so? There are circumstances that contributed to this, and we can talk about this because, again, we are not pointing any blaming fingers. We're really here to learn so that when we better understand the context, we can then resolve the challenges. We're able to mitigate the risk. Okay, so for Hawaii County, the allocated amount for PY 2022 was over 500,000. They spent about 250,000, and they returned to the state 336,000. So their spent rate was 42%. For Maui, they were allocated PY 2022 350,000, a little bit over 350,000. They spent 247,000, and about a little over 100,000 was given back to the state for our recaptured funds. Their spent rate is the best amongst the counties at 69%. Kauai had allocated amount of 163,000. They spent 42,000. So their available balance that was returned to the state as part of the recaptured funds was about a little more over 120,000. So in total for PY 2022, for this remaining year until June 30th, 2025, the recaptured funds is about 1.5 million. Okay. Now, this monies, I want to be clear. There is a protocol as to how to spend it. There are very strict guidelines. Federal is more strict than the state as far as disposition of those funds. So let me just be clear. Because there is a transition between WDD and WDC, there are things that are still in flux as far as how do we determine these funds, what is the protocol. At the end of the day, I think it needs to be something that needs to be vetted, and that the process should be transparent. And then at the end of the day, it will need to be, according to federal law, it will need to be vetted, and the input of the state board needs to be solicited. That is state law. I mean, federal law. Okay, so I want to show you the number of participants for the last 2 years, FY 2022 and FY 23. This is a combination of the numbers, and then the cost per participant. The amount or the cost per participant is derived from a formula where you take the expenses, how much they spent, versus the number of participants, and then you get a cost per participant basis. Okay, so for Oahu, they had 95 participants for PY 2022 and PY 2023, and the cost per participant is almost 9,000. For the Big Island, 79 participants, and the cost per participant is the best of all the states, I mean, of all the local areas, and theirs is about a little more over 3,200. Maui is at 29, and then their cost per participant is about 8,500. Kauai had 4, and they had, unfortunately, the worst record with 10,502 for each participant. Okay, so let me go to any questions thus far. We can talk about the more strategic stuff after I present, but let me go ahead and talk about the allocation for PY 2023. So for that, not much has changed. If you take a look between Oahu PY 2022 and PY 2023, it's about 1.8 million, give or take a few dollars. Hawaii had again 575, a little more over 500,000. Maui had a little bigger decrease at 287,000, and Kauai has 143,000. So they are, the locals have not started to spend yet their 2023 budgets. In other words, they've already been into it a year. Okay, they're into a year. They are now in their last year of the 2 years, but they haven't spent it yet. So this coming at the heels, nipping at the heels, they have not spent the PY 2023. The PY 2024 is already allocated. Okay, now we as a state, we had a reduction from like 10 million total. I'm not talking just about youth, to about less than minus 700,000. So that trickles to youth. And so for youth, the allocated amount for Oahu is 1.7 million. Hawaii has 518,000. Maui has a little more over 200,000. Kauai has 129. Mind you, this is still in its draft stage, because this is still being reviewed by the Hawaii Attorney General's office. So there's still contractual obligations that needs to happen. But I'm just giving you a view, because I think it's important for this committee to be aware of the financials, because when you look at the federal law, this committee, the Youth Services Committee, needs to oversee this and then hopefully be able to bring it up to the executive committee, and then from the executive committee to the full board. But this is the first time we're doing this, because in the past, we have not been, being able to access, but, and I'm sure there were good reasons for it, but starting this year, as we become more involved in WIOA and really rising up to the responsibility and the role that we are supposed to do, we are fulfilling our duties by becoming more aware of the financial and the fiscal obligations of the state. So any questions thus far? I know I gave you a lot to think about.
If there are any questions, please raise your electronic hand, or Carla, I see you've unmuted. Go ahead.
Is there an expected number of participants to serve with the funds?
No. Obviously, the lower the better, right? So the more, it's almost like economy of scales. The more you have participants, the less, because you have fixed cost that whether it be administrative, whether it be furniture and equipment, whatever the case may be. So that will never go away. But if you have more participants, you're able to break down the formula so that it becomes less. So lower the better, the more participants, the better. And at the end of the day, I think if you're a parent and you're giving somebody an allowance, you want to make sure that your child is making full use of the resources. What I worry about, what keeps me up at night, is the fact that if we continue on this trend, if we continue to either return money or at some point, USDOL will take notice and say, well, I guess just like if you give somebody an allowance, your kid an allowance, and they don't spend it, then that means they don't need it.
Right.
And there may be some repercussions. I don't know. I wanna, exercise caution. I do not want to alarm anyone or anyone in this call, but we're trying to be transparent here. We're trying to make sure we all understand the baseline. Then hopefully once everybody's clear about what that baseline is, we can improve. Okay, I think Harrison, please,
Harrison,
you might want to share. Yeah.
Sorry, Carla, was your question if we have to hit a certain number of participants every year?
Yes. Thank you, Harrison.
So yes.
That was, yes. Is there a goal associated with the monies that we receive? Is there a goal of the number of participants to serve that the provider should be aiming for?
Yes. So when we submit our budgets, we have to also submit X amount of participants per quarter. For Oahu, based off the amount that we get, we're looking at about 258 new participants. So it's not total. So I believe the number on the screen is total participants, but we have to get new participants. So those that are sitting already that they got enrolled this year, even if they're still in the program, we only count the new participants that come in. So everything from July 1 will actually start from 0 again, and those will be the new participants. And they'll start from 1. And I think based off the budget, we usually need to get about 258 around there.
Statewide?
Per program. That's
No,
just for Oahu.
Oahu only.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Can Maui share if somebody
Thank
from
you.
the Big Island is there? Thank you for that question.
Wait, real quick, was that a quarterly goal or an annual goal?
Annual.
Annual.
It's actually for the entire grant for the 2 years.
And from our neighbor islands, care to lend their voice to this?
I don't know if somebody from Maui is there. Chair,
I'm
oh,
here
go
from
ahead.
Maui, but I'm not knowledgeable on, I don't work directly in that. I'm just representing my boss, Leslie Wilkins, today, and taking notes. So I'm happy to pass along the request, but I wouldn't know that off the top of my head, what the goals are.
Okay. Thank you. Chair, may I maybe suggest that Harrison also address, like, what were some of the circumstances why they were not able to spend the monies down?
Yeah, go for it.
Also, we actually had a pretty busy PY22. Although the numbers don't dictate what we were planning, a lot of projects that we had in the mix fell through. One of the projects that we had through youth was we wanted to see if we could get them driver's permits to lead into careers in CDL. Unfortunately, that project did not, go the way we wanted to. We got some exciting projects starting out for PY23. We got BIA. It's kind of it's a pre-apprenticeship, yet not really a pre-apprenticeship, but it's, construction training for our youth, which is a great project that could lead to the unions. We also got in touch with the electricians. They're one that is looking to work with us this year. We've got a couple of work experience projects with CVS. So we're looking at, hitting the ground running as of July 1st. I believe our projects are going to start next month. We're looking at about maybe 40 youths right there, and that's about half of what we had over the previous period. And another thing is we also started partnering with other organizations out in the communities. Are any of you familiar with Project Search? So the current graduating, the last graduating class of Project Search, I believe the majority of them enrolled in our projects, in our programs, and it's going to tie into the work experience. So we're looking at a huge influx, and hopefully next meeting we'll be able to provide you some data that's going to be on pace for us to spend a lot more of our funds and get a lot more participants. I also have my youth program manager on, Nisa Tokunaga, if she wants to add anything.
Yes, couple of other projects that we have going is working with the community colleges. We just had a meeting Monday. So we're gonna be assisting the youth the older youth that fall from 18 to 21, because it'll be an in-school youth, with their practicum or internship, something like work experience, like how Harrison said, alongside with supportive services. So just all those partnerships that we're moving ahead and going forward very quickly right now is super exciting, and we're looking to, yes, hit our goals. We do have a number of goals from our board, Harrison. So yeah, just working with that. I know that my team has been partnering up with Rona folks at Lanakila, working with Evan. And then we've been working with Waynell, with the DOE. So we're hoping to get back in there as soon as school starts, start hitting the high schools with our outreach. We'll be at Halekipa next month for an outreach event, and hopefully, enroll some of their youth that they have.
Yeah, Bennett, go ahead.
Chair, just a suggestion, respectfully, perhaps on during our committee meetings, we could have an update from each of the islands as far as the participation numbers, so that then we can really see the trends.
Yeah, for sure. That would definitely be helpful. And then also, Harrison, not to pick on you because you're a guy right now. What were some of like the buckets of the funds that you spent on like specific allocations? I don't mean like, I don't need a line item budget or an Excel sheet, but if you could share with us some of the things that the funds were used for, so we can get a better idea of how the funds were used.
So part of WIOA is we have to spend at least 20% of our funding on work experience. So the majority of funds were spent on work experience. Also for youth mentoring. So at this point, we have our case managers and our youth counselors. They've been doing a lot of case management with our youth that we've had. That's been the majority of the cost. And the great thing about the youth is, in the adult programs, they only can pick one pathway, and for youth, they can have multiple pathways. So they can do multiple work experiences and see, what they like, what doesn't work for them. And I believe, Anissa again can correct me if I'm wrong, but we actually got a lot of the youth participants got their GEDs this past year.
Yes, we'll be having a graduation in December at LCC, so we look forward to that. Also, Tui, some of the monies has been spent on the educational piece, their GED testing, their GED books. So that is part of, besides the work experience, which holds a lot of spend down, it was the educational piece as well.
Yeah, copy that. That's very helpful. I know, at least I think that some of those funds can be used for college transitions. I read somewhere. What would that kind of expenditure look like? Talk about like helping the youth navigate college transitions. What does that mean? Does it mean transitioning between colleges or from high school to college? And if so, like how does that normally play out? Or have we used funds in that way in a significant manner?
That's actually a really good question, Tui. So one of the requirements for WIOA is 75% of our funds must be spent on out-of-school youth. And that doesn't mean we cannot get in-school participants, It just means that, you know, the 75% of the funds must be spent on out-of-school youth. So that's one thing that we need to work on a little bit, you know, more, is getting some of these in-school youths. And you know, a post-secondary. So if they're already in college, like let's just say we get a referral from DVR and they're in college, we can only get them up until they're 21 years old. And if they are in college, they would be considered an in-school youth. So it's secondary and post-secondary for in-school. But yes, we can spend some of the funds on getting them specific degrees. We do have to beef up our eligible training provider list, you know, because there are some requirements on, you know, where we can send them for school and whatnot, and what kind of classes they can take. And that's on our side. So that's something that the board would have to take care of.
Copy that. And where you can send them for, like, if they went to a training program, say with Building Trades Council, right? If they were in HCC, they're an in-school youth. But if they were going through like an apprenticeship program with Building Trades, that would be different.
Yes. So apprenticeship, that would be considered training. So it's so different in the youth program. So for example, if they're in some kind of training or education, they qualify for incentives. If they're in employment, they do not. So there's steps that we work with putting these individuals through so they can get some of the incentives, so they get excited about, you know, being in some of our programs. You know, I believe one of the incentives is if they shadow an employer for a few hours, they get a gift card. If they get a perfect attendance, you know, if they put in 100 hours of work experience. But yes, so if it's an apprenticeship, and you know what, we actually would love to have the apprenticeship programs come to the youth program, but not everybody will qualify, yeah, because most apprenticeship programs, they have to be 18, and we can get the youth from 16 if they're out of school.
Sure. Yeah, let's have a sidebar conversation, because I'm close with some of the folks on Building Trades and some of the other apprenticeship programs that they have at IBEW and whatnot. Let's sidebar. Let's talk about it a little bit. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, Tui.
Matt Stevens, I see your hand up.
Yes, I'm still learning WIOA and kind of wrapping my head around things here, and it may relate to actually what you just mentioned, Harrison. Am I understanding correctly that, especially with some of the older youth, the 18-year-old youth, it's possible that there are adult funds that can be used to support these youth that may not be showing up in the report we saw so far?
Yes. So the youth that are 18 to 24, they also can be co-enrolled in adult. So that would be but as far as the youth goes, we want to keep them in the youth program a little bit longer and in the adult, because the support is there, the mentorship piece is there, the work experience piece is there. Once they go to adult, they should, it's a little bit more job ready, less support. So we want to keep them in youth until 24. And the great thing about youth is they can be 25, 26, 27 years old and still in our youth program, because it's age of entry. So if they're 22 when they enter our youth program, but they still need our youth services and there's funding available, we would rather keep them in the youth program.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing that.
Erica, go ahead.
Just a question backing up to the apprenticeship program. We run a very large number of those programs, specifically like Honolulu CC. So if I could be included in that sidebar, I can help push that conversation along.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Anyone else while we got Harrison on the hot seat? No? All right. Thank you very much, Harrison. It's very helpful.
Chair, can I just add one more thing, that for the PY 2021 that just ended, for the recaptured funds, it's noteworthy to note that we did not return any monies to the feds. that all those recaptured funds were spent.
Copy that. All right. Any further questions for the report from our executive director? All right, seeing none. Thank you so much, Bennett. Big fan of your work. Thank you for all the energy that you put into this stuff. And I know it's not insignificant. And I hate double negatives, but it's the funniest way to say that I can think of right now. All right. Earlier, our Youth Services Committee has spent significant time listening to our stakeholders share about their focus and their initiatives. Then, if you recall, we had a roundtable discussion last meeting to thresh out some of the challenges and even came out with some ideas on possible next steps to solve these challenges. We identified 8 potential strategies. They're listed in your agenda. Our goal today is to be more intentional in our approach. For the rest of the remaining time that we have in this meeting, or the majority of it, we need to decide as a group, what are the immediate next steps that we can take to address the identified challenges that we spoke about recently. Probably not going to be able to tackle all 8 of these strategies. So maybe this committee should decide on the top 3 priorities and then figure out where the rest of it lands organically. If it involves policy change, are there other stakeholders can we work with to accomplish those similar goals? So please, if you could, refer to your agenda for the list of strategies. The best way maybe to go over each of them. And if you want to advocate for a particular item, then please speak up. And at the end, we will vote on the priorities that we should pursue. Here are, let me bring up my agenda.
Oh, okay. You're going to do it, Chair? Share it?
No, can you share your screen?
I am. I'm going to.
Very good.
Okay, hang on a second. Almost there.
I am on a different device than the one that's...
Here we go. You see it?
Yes, thank you so much. So we have a centralized website was one of the first ones. Exploring discounted bus passes or transportation support for the youth. Working with the DOE to destigmatize community college and vocational training programs. Implicit bias training for employers and support staff. Exploring partnerships with orgs that can provide career mentors for the youth. Develop strategies for improved outreach and engagement with youth, particularly those involved in the justice system or at-risk populations. Collaborate with organizations like Parents and Children Together to address social, emotional, and mental health factors impacting youth job readiness. And lastly, assess the feasibility of incorporating financial literacy education into youth employment programs. To start with, I'll go over each one of them in a second. Are there any of these initiatives that jump out at you? And feel free, you don't even have to raise your hand. You can just unmute and jump out and say, yes, I am extremely passionate about number 4 or whatever. But please let me know, let us know, what do you feel most passionate about? What is the most important thing for you on this list? Vinette, I see. And then Erica.
Just a suggestion, this is more procedural than content.
Yeah.
That perhaps this is wonderful that, people can advocate, but at the end, perhaps we can do a Survey Monkey so that then people can vote, even those that are not in this present in this room.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Erica, then Carla, then Rona.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say number 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Carla.
I'd really like to know from the providers which one of these would be the most help to them to increase the participants, to increase their participants and visibility, and how we can best help our providers.
Yeah, that's great. Let me look to Rona first, and then maybe we'll encompass all that at the same time. Rona, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I, of course, working in the disability field, the number 6 is very important to me, but I actually wanted to comment that we just, in partnership with the DOE, DVR, and Developmental Disabilities Council submitted a proposal to the Disability Innovation Fund to do just that, to develop strategies for reaching justice-involved youth and other youth at risk, including youth with disabilities, which also ties to number 1, which is creating a platform of all the resources available. So it might, help to address a couple of these if we do get funded. So that's the big if.
Yeah, copy that.
Is that, sorry, Chair, may I just quickly
yeah.
ask as a follow-up to Rona? Maybe it's a side conversation that needs to happen. But as far as you know, all the funds that you are trying to secure, it's enough, is adequate, or are you looking for additional monies to supplement?
It's a 5-year grant. I believe the funds are enough, at least for the first few years. And we're just a subcontractor. The main players are VR, DOE, and the DD Council. And I forgot to mention, Center on Disability Studies is doing the research piece around it. So maybe in the future we might need more funding, but right now, no. But sorry, I should say, if we don't get funded, it may be an opportunity to fund a partnership that's already in place to address it. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you. Matt.
Yeah, I think maybe a caution and an excitement about number 1. What I like about number 1 is the word centralized, because there are a lot of great resources out there already that are available, but a user has to go multiple places. So I think centralizing that information could be really exciting. And I'll just tack on to say that there's a data point that, especially looking at the unified plan and ways in which we let workforce development be a factor that can push economic development. A key piece of data we're missing is, what are kids interested in? What are they exploring? And so I would just say, if we do number 1, it would be really great if there's a way for users to explore, but also store and set their goals. Yeah. Not just so that they have that information, but that we can start to kind of have a pulse check on, what the future looks like.
It's so poignant. Earlier today, when Elle and I were in the Perkins 5 planning committee, and that was one of the things that brought up was how do you find the sweet spot in the Venn diagram? And I think it's a 3-dimensional Venn diagram of available career opportunities, emerging career opportunities that will actually sustain this person or their family, meaning a living or thriving wage, ideally thriving. And then last but not least, the careers that they're interested in. Like, that may be the one thing that's not quantifiable in that equation is, what is it that they want to do? What is it that they love doing? And is there a way that we can draw the line from points A through Z to help them along their career path to get there? Like, what is it that wakes them up in the morning that they're super excited to do? I think part of that is affected by the fact that some of these kids that we may be supporting in these communities right now are working on much more immediate threats to their career pathway, being having housing and access to food and clothes and facilities and things of that nature, And once they pass that hurdle, once we get past our basic needs for survival, once those are met, then it allows a lot more space to dream, I think. But what is it that these kids love to do? And I think that's going to take a lot more boots in the ground work, elbow grease kind of work to reach out to these folks. But yeah, great point.
Yeah, and just I'll add one more thing in there as you said that. I think number 8 with the financial literacy, if you had a platform that you could explore what the cost of living is going to be and how it relates to some of these things, that's just another data point, right? Really allowing us to see what's the mismatch between what kids want to do, what they can afford to do. It tells us what problems we're trying to fix. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, great stuff. Erica, is your hand still up from the last time, or did you have something new?
Sorry, I'll lower it.
Copy that, no worries. David, go ahead.
Awesome. This is super helpful to see laid out like this, by the way, so appreciate that. I like the tangibility of the first two. It feels like, in my mind, it's kind of a clearer win, or thing that we can point to show some growth. Again, similar to what other folks have said about number one, I think it's so obvious and simple, but like on the surface, but so complicated in practice. And so I feel like there's probably more workshopping that needs to be done to even figure out what this looks like. I'm struck with, what I've heard through other communications consultants, and that a lot of youth, if they're interested in a business or a school or whatever it is, a website's usually not the place that they go to first. It's some kind of social media handle, right? So we don't want to build something that's amazing that the target population wouldn't naturally look for in the first place. And to Matt's point, if it feels like kind of a cold and sterile, government tool, that may not kind of jive with the kind of interest that they have. And so I think having youth voice or perspectives on how to make that valuable, especially given all of the immediate challenges that Tui referenced, I think that's valuable learning, but that might be several or many steps away from actually seeing number one come to life. Again, number two, it's very tangible. It's so obvious on the surface. It's something that shows up again and again and again on surveys through schools and nonprofits. So how do we thread that needle? I'm not sure, but I think you would see, you'd see a lot of value right away with that. For number 8, with financial literacy, there's already a lot going on with the department and the Board of Education around this issue. And so I think it would be an opportune time to plug in to see, a lot of the conversation at the DOE and BOE level through some of the task force work that I was part of is around how to make that financial literacy something that is relevant and usable for students. I think if it's just talking about 401ks and checking versus savings accounts in a vacuum, you're going to get eyes that roll into the back of the head. But if it's about those big sticky questions that I think Tui referenced, like how do you get to thriving, then you might have some really exciting opportunities. Challenge is things aren't necessarily created that way right now, but I do think there's a lot of interest and value into providing additional support in that area. But they're all great here, so I don't want it to come across as a vote.
No, not at all. That was great. It really is, I think, like the purpose of this portion of the conversation is, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the coin flip effect. If you're torn between two things, flip a coin, but not for the reason you think. You're not going to trust it on whim to a 50-50 chance. Take the coin, flip it in the air, and if you don't care which one it lands on, then just pick one. But if you flip it in the air and you find yourself hoping for an outcome, forget whatever the coin lands on and just do the thing that your heart is asking you to do. So I think that's the purpose of this, and I really appreciate what you had to share, David, is that what are the ones that jump out to you? What are the ones that, like, there's a little bit of energy when you feel those words running through your mind? Thank you again, Winnell, and then let's go to Michelle.
Hi. So I wasn't gonna talk because I just wanted to be here to just kind of like listen and absorb and learn. So working with the county here with the Office of Economic Development, Nalani, my director, and I, we attended 2 financial literacy. It was a financial reality fairs for 2 of the 3 public high schools here, and it was so much fun and very impactful that if you guys don't have it on your islands, you guys should look into it. So basically, we went into the last one that we did was at Waimea High School, and we go to the gym and we set up in the gym, and it's partnered with Department of Education and Gather Federal Credit Union. They own this this program. And the students walk in and they're already pre-assigned like a job. So they have a piece of paper and it says, I'm a pilot, my spouse is a stay-at-home mom, we have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and this is how much money I make. And they go around to the different tables and they have to buy health insurance or choose to buy health insurance or not. Then they go to the next table and they have to choose what kind of vehicle would be perfect for them based on their family size and what they can afford based on their salary. You know, so, and then they come to the wheel of reality, which is where Nalani and I were working, and they literally have to spin the wheel. And these wrenches are thrown into their lives, like, you just had a fender bender and you have to pay $250. But if you opted to buy insurance or car insurance, your rate is going to go down and you don't have to pay that much. So it put them in like full-blown reality mode. I mean, we were giving out baby boys and baby girls. And if they spun and they got a baby boy or a baby girl, we were ringing a bell and the entire gym was clapping and they're like, oh my gosh, I already have 2 kids. I don't want another kid, you know? And so like getting them to just see like financially what job they want to go into based on that kind of stuff was really an eye opener for them. And I really wish that we had something like that for adults too. You know,
for sure.
It's like, I can't wait to do the next one.
That's
it's very impactful. So Gather Federal Credit Union here on Kauai has a program that they go out to the high schools and do it. So I just wanted to put that out there because it's very impactful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I went to Kamehameha schools and I didn't even get any of that. I can see the different like bits of spin-offs for each one of those stations, that when you buy a car, make sure you leave extra to get new tires, registration, insurance, safety check, all of those things.
Yeah.
For health insurance, do you have to purchase it yourself or do you belong to a union where those contributions are already taken out? You know, that's nothing on your plate. That's wonderful.
So it has them really, really thinking about their job, you know, and what path they're going to go in. And I have children. My youngest child is 19. I wish they had that in high school when she was in school, but it was COVID time. I have a 25-year-old. They didn't have that for him. I have a 32-year-old. They didn't have that for him either. So, I mean, I think every island should have it. Some, you know, some of the credit unions on the islands should. It's like Gather Federal Credit Union purchased it from somebody in the mainland and has the rights to it here on the island.
Copy that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle,
sorry. No, go.
Michelle, I just want to say that is a great program because we have financial literacy for our youth every other Fridays, alongside with entrepreneurship and all those activities, Friday activities. And we had the Hawaii State Federal Credit Union come in, and she was awesome. The kids loved it, and they realized like, oh, they can't do, you know, they come to reality of what financial literacy means, being financially independent. So that was an awesome program.
I mean, ringing that bell and telling them you have a baby, and I put a baby sticker on their shirt, and they're like, oh my gosh, the whole gym is staring at me. And I go, oh, and now you have a medical bill for $7,500, but did you buy health insurance? And they're like, oh, let me check my paper. Did I get health insurance? Oh yeah, Auntie, I bought health insurance. I go, oh good, then your bill is only gonna be $700 then. And they're like, oh, thank goodness, you know. So even that kind of stuff, like they're made aware of these things and these big words that they're gonna have to encounter once they go out there in the world, you know.
Yeah, that was a great program, the awesome program.
Yeah.
right? And then also you think diapers are expensive, wait until your kids get into the berry phase. Let's go to 1L.
Matanuska does a similar program here at Opal High School, but they do it in the evenings, and the kids come with their parents and they go through that activity. And then I think at the end of the night, the kids have a better understanding of the struggles the parents are going through financially. But anyway, going through the list of 8, I think similar to what David was saying earlier, I think for us, a lot of it in the department, these are a lot of things that we've been working on and that we've been having some successes with, some struggles with. I think for me, out of the 8, number 4 stands out. And I think it's because for us, we're working a lot with our business partners, right? And it's helping them to understand that our kids are not scary. And that, like, open the doors, let them in, let them see what your business is all about, give them some options and let them see what's available. So they can, like Tui said, right? Find something they're passionate about, find something that's related to something they're interested in and build a career out of it. I think for our kids, a lot of times their worlds are very tight and closed. So if we can get employers to start opening the doors a little bit more and taking our kids in, then we can at least start opening their worlds a little bit more and showing them that there is something for them in an area of interest.
Amen. Amen. I read recently someone that said, seeking a job that pays a living wage, pays a thriving wage, wanting like enough money to live and survive is not greedy. Wanting to work a little bit less so you have more time for leisure or with your family for what you will is not lazy, and I think a lot of those I don't want to say old school, but time-honored traditions of workplace trauma of get in here and work to the bone. You should be happy that you get a paycheck at all. That I think is so antiquated. That's at least not from what I've seen where the young workers of our union is at. They don't want to hear that argument at all, right? Work is work and tired is tired, whether you've been working for 10-hour shifts 5 days a week or 16-hour shifts for 6 days a week, like we do in our world. If you're tired, you're tired. And if you're getting paid a living wage, then you're getting paid a living wage. And that's all there is to it. And I think that's a relative situation that everyone finds themselves in. But I think addressing those preconceived notions, those prejudgments that people have about the youth, I totally vibe with that. That's an important thing to address. Thank you for that. Carrie, you had your hand up?
Yeah, the comment I was going to make was a tag on to what Wanel was talking about. And it's like partnerships with the businesses. I think one of the things the businesses do not do is they don't understand what the requirements or the standards that the teachers are trying to do. Because you need to have an alignment. And then you go to the businesses and the businesses teach what they want the students to know. And then they get too offline, then there really isn't alignment in the partnerships. So I think it's two-folded. The businesses need to understand the requirements that the teachers or DOE has to maintain first. And we're talking about your ELA, we're talking your math and your science, and how does that support it first? And how does the partnership support or the work support what they're doing? So I think there is a knowledge that has to go both ways.
Yeah, but I think also there's a way to remove some of the redundancies of onboarding that I know I can only speak from my personal experience that I once held a nationally recognized lift certification that across the US, this safety certification said that I am competent and proficient in the operation of a scissor lift, a forklift, or a boom lift. And it doesn't have an expiration date. I still have it in my wallet. OSHA has changed regulations, so as ANSI standards have shifted too. So they all expire after 3 years. Neither here nor there. I would then go on a film or a TV show, and the studio would then hold almost identical training that I've already done for something I was already competent in, you know? And I think that's the other side of that coin, Carrie, is that I think we can avoid some of those redundancies with onboarding if we can look to the employers to tell us specifically the types of training that they would like to see their applicants have. And that way, it's not like, well, I know you already took one test, but you got to take the same test from a different company again and waste time, effort, and money. It could just be, hey, if you've taken OSHA 10, the OSHA 30 construction or whatever, then it counts. And that's, they're already moving along the career path at an advanced pace than what they would have been before. But yeah, that I totally hear what you're saying. Bennett, I see your hand up.
Yes. So I'm moving as we move forward through this process. I was thinking we would circulate this 8 items, but I think and then have people vote, like I mentioned, through Survey Monkey. But I think it's important for us to have a better context of what's already being done. So for those that piped in, like I think Wanel, you said most of this you're working on. Could you provide maybe 1 or 2 sentences? Just say where you're at, so that then we're not reinventing the wheel. So we have a better context as what is the existing initiatives that have been done, so we can just build upon your initiatives or even partner with you or whatever the case may be. So I think when people are considering which priority to support, they would then be able to take that into account, Chair.
Yep.
So I think yeah, Wanel, I think Rona, I think Erica, you said something. So if you can just provide us some context. Anyone else who you think your organization or your agency is doing something, just provide that so that we can add it and that we have a better understanding of the gaps.
And also, like, that's a great idea. If you are, or your organization is already engaged in some way, shape, or form in any of these 8 initiatives, let us know. Jot down a little bit about it so you share it at our next meeting, or we can do it offline. And if you're not doing it, you don't have to comment on all 8 and say not applicable, not applicable, not applicable. Just carve out the ones that you are working on, if you are working on any of them. And no good, bad, right, or wrong. Just tell us what's up, what's going on. And again, if you're not working on any of them, no need to submit anything. Let's start thinking about the ones that of this list in any way, shape, or form you are currently already engaged in. If you're finding speed bumps, if you're at the edge of a cliff, if you have reached the top of the mountain and can see the other side and the sun rising, let us know. That way, I think we can all collaborate together to make this work more efficient. Thank you for that, Bennett.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
about that. So in terms of these 8 items are in general just things to consider for any youth. This is separate from what Bennett was talking about earlier about the funds that need to be used, which is for out of school youth, right?
Yes, and I think it is what you're saying, but also through the context, through the lens of discourse of this work with WIOA funds. I think for right now, it's dreaming big and looking far and wide for what's already happening, and then funneling that through this lens of discourse so that we can apply it to our work for this committee and this council.
Okay, thank you.
If I may add a little bit more, Chair. So very good question, Wanel. So the way we're approaching this is like just a broad, because some of these things don't need necessarily funding, right? We may be able to pursue those initiatives without necessarily dedicating. It's more like, of an effort. But at the point where we need funding, that's when we're going to cast a wide net, whether WIOA, whether other, grants in federal or even state. So I think as a committee, we're not necessarily just focusing our attention just on the WIOA, because I think it's a broader look. But however, the information that I shared is WIOA. And to the extent that we can use WIOA funds, that would be fantastic.
Yep. Anyone else have anything that's jumping out at them? If sorry, did someone jump in? Carrie, go ahead.
Okay, one of the things that I think we need to look at is, and I think I've toyed with the idea. We have two different things that we're looking at. Number one is WIOA, which is for those with barriers to employment. Second is we're looking at workforce development, which is actually trying, how do we move the economy forward? So it's more career pathways into, it's not for those with barriers. So we're looking at two different things. I think when I was we're looking at, sometimes we get caught between the two. So do we move the economy forward, only grabbing those with barriers? Or is that two separate issues? One, we move and we drive the economy. And the second is we also take care of those that have barriers to employment.
I think it's two different passengers on the same airplane.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. We need to look at it. And I think as people who are on the committee that's with you, we need to separate it in our minds.
Yeah.
To know that it is separate. It's not the same. We're not in the same seat.
Yeah. Although our unified plan, Carrie, it's not just one, right? So we actually have both the economic growth and also taking care of those population with barriers to employment. So we need to do both. We can't just choose one versus the other.
I think the point is that most people are not aware of that. They're trying to fit the two parts into one strategy, which sometimes it doesn't work out that way. If it does, fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it doesn't align.
Yeah, I think that economic development further up in maybe the airplane was a bad analogy. Economic development is the goal, I think, overall, but the Workforce Development Council, specifically this committee, is to engage with the youth as part of one of the foundational blocks of economic development. Maybe that's a better one. We're building up towards a goal, a line to get to, but one of the foundational supports has to be supporting our youth in Hawaii to succeed, so that the state as a whole may succeed. Matt, you had your hand up?
I did. I was just going to share a data point because I think, Carrie, I was trying to think about breaking from the metaphor, sticking with it, Tui. You got me thrown on this plane. I did some back of the napkin data, and just looked at like census data. And I think, approximately 165,000 youth in Hawaii are going to enter the workforce in the next decade. And if you look at DLR projections of how many jobs and job openings pay enough to support people, and again, this is a conservative estimate, but about 35,000 jobs. So it's kind of both, right? We need more seats on the plane, and we want to make sure that folks with barriers have just as likelihood to get on that plane. That's how I think about it, at least.
Nice pivot with the plane analogy. Appreciate it. Thank you for bringing it back to the realm of logic. That's awesome. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Anything jumping out at you from this list of 8? We got a few more minutes and then we have to pivot to another subject to speak about. All right. If there's no one else on this discussion item. We'll distribute the Survey Monkey poll to figure out, to get the pulse of where we're at on this committee and what we want to do, because that'll give us a better idea of where to focus our efforts. This is not to say that any one of these initiatives are lacking merit or value, merely the ones that we're going to focus our efforts so that we can get this plane off the runway. Stick with the plane analogy and just run that one till the wheels fall off. All right, so thank you, everyone. It's a great discussion. We will certainly keep that momentum going. You can be sure of that. At this time, I'd like to introduce our WDC Executive Director, Bennett Misalucha, to give her updates. Bennett, please, if you would.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I just want to mahalo Tui and Carla for their leadership. It's not easy to be chair and to, be strategic in the planning of what this discussion should be. So I want to mahalo them and mahalo to all of you who are part of this conversation. If you recall, this is what the third or fourth time that we're meeting with the reset button. And I am so proud of where we are from where we've come from. And so I think we're, doing a great job. You folks are all engaged and very invested. So I just want to commend you for the efforts so far and look forward to the efforts ahead. Okay, so I would like to report on what has transpired the last few weeks, the last few months, and let me see if I can make this work. Okay, for some reason, I can't seem to. Okay, there you go. Oh. Okay, we're going to start all over again with this PowerPoint. For some reason, it's not. Can you see what I shared? No?
Not just yet.
Okay, all right.
Also, there's a bit of lag time with PowerPoint over Zoom, so no worries.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yep, good to go.
Okay, so here are some of the highlights. Okay, so again, unified plan, we got approval. We are in the process right now of making sure that it doesn't sit in a shelf somewhere gathering dust. Apologies to those of you who've heard my presentation many times if you've been attending committee meetings. But I think for the benefit of those who are new to this conversation at the Youth Services Committee, I'm going to go over it. But thank you for your patience. So again, part of the unified plan is to ensure that it's a living document. And as a result, we're going to be having a division of labor conversations, both with the board as well as with our community. There are some strategic plan events that are forthcoming. And hopefully with that in mind, just like this committee, there's going to be good energy and initiatives that would allow us to move forward with the 4 pillars of the unified plan that we had set. As many of you know, July 1st is a new day. We were able to get our program ID back, and as such, we are now an attached agency to the U.S. or to the Department of Labor, Hawaii Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. So the transition is going to happen, albeit a little slow because of some administrative and constraints, but not to worry. We have a transition plan that's going to be set in place, and hopefully the transition will be seamless. We do have upcoming events. If you're a member of our board, I know that you're aware of the training opportunities that we have on WIOA. So hopefully by the end of this year, many of you will be steeped in WIOA and are able to be conversant and be able to perform the roles and responsibilities that the board has been charged with. We are planning an economic trends seminar with the National Governors Association. We had initially envisioned it to be in July, but obviously because of so many other competing priorities, we're not going to be able to do that. But suffice it to say, it will be forthcoming. September is Workforce Development Month, and along those lines, we have exciting events related to it. We did it last year, and we're going to repeat that and hopefully even get greater traction as a result. So we have a Future of Work conference that we're planning with the Chamber of Commerce. We have Workforce Development Heroes, where we're recognizing those that have been outstanding in their passion, in their efforts towards lifting our workforce. I'm also part of a long-term care workforce task force. It's really a very meaningful and significant effort. The legislature passed a bill that called for a master plan for long-term care for our kupunas. When you look at the graying of America and you see the fact that we have a low birth rate, the inevitable question is who's going to take care of our kupunas? So we're trying to grapple with that. How do you make sure that there's a pipeline of young people going into the profession, those armed with good hearts and good intentions and a caring spirit? So we're mapping out something that, or a plan that we hope will be presented to the legislature for the next legislative session. If you're interested in this, by the way, notwithstanding, I know we have the youth services here, but if you want to get to the other end of the spectrum and would like to do both, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to get you involved. So our focus, I'm going to just mention a few. As you know, we have our board committees. I'm happy to report that in addition to the Youth Services Committee, our other board committees are really being strengthened and focused on the mission that they have. We're also working with our local boards, with Harrison and Chantel and Clinton, to make sure that our we're tied at the hip, and we continue to work together collaboratively so that the state board really would be able to be the convener and I guess the sister, whatever, or the brother that everybody would like to have. We're also focused on improving our American Job Centers. The Special Projects Committee is involved in this, and I think they are on a good path. If you were part of the conversation last Monday, you would see that there's a lot of energy, tremendous efforts and passion that are going into this. So hopefully, just like anything else, we can see a trend which would be upward, and in a year's time, we could see the progression. Are there any questions for me? Mahalo again for all your efforts. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Executive Director? Okay. Seeing none. Thank you very much, Bennett. At this time, the public is welcome to announce upcoming events and comment on relevant issues that were not included in this meeting's agenda. Please be advised that in compliance with the Sunshine Law, the committee cannot discuss or act on issues that were not included in this meeting's agenda, but issues raised during this period may be included in a future agenda for the committee's consideration. Anyone from the public for announcements or comments? Seeing none, the next meeting is scheduled for September 17th, 2024 at 1 p.m. via Zoom, and to be determined on the room at the DLIR building, but proper notification will be sent out. Any further business before the committee? All right, I'll give you 8 minutes of your life back. Thank you all for your participation. There being no further business. Oh, Carrie, go ahead. No, you're saying a lot. Okay, I mean, there being no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 2:23 p.m.
Aloha, everyone. Bye-bye.
Mahalo.
Thanks. Mahalo,
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you.